All right, everyone, we are back and we are going to go through our Routh-Hurwitz stability criterion. So this is a analytical technique that basically is going to allow us to figure out what are the conditions where we are stable for systems where we're greater than second order. So we have to look at it's not comprehensive. We need to write out essentially this polynomial. We're going to create a Routh table, and we're going to check for essentially signs of the coefficients in that first column. And our stability criteria is, or condition, is that all entries in the first column must be positive. If the number of sign change in the first column will equal the number of right-hand poles. So 0 in the first column, you have to have special handling. But again, typically, as long as the number of sign changes is, or basically all entries are positive, then we're stable. If there is a sign change, then we're going to have right-hand pole, and that means we're unstable. Now, we're going to assume this is greater than 0 for normalization. The way that we create the Routh-Hurwitz table is we're going to create essentially this table where there are going to be row 1 and row 2 based on the odd and even powers of the coefficients of our system. So basically we're going to set up row 1 will be even powers, row 2 will be odd powers. And for the rows after the first 2 rows, we're going to create it by basically calculating essentially, these determinants. So we're going to look and we're going to calculate this. And this is really a lot easier to kind of visualize and see once we kind of, once we set up essentially the table. But our B1, which will be that basically all the elements in the third row. So B will be the third row. And what we're going to do is you're going to take A1, A0, so directly above it, and then you're going to take the one also kind of catty-corner across from you. For B2, it's still that same first one there, but then you're going to take the ones here. And then you're going to calculate essentially the determinant normalized by A1. So you can kind of see here. So let's start to build a generic Routh table, just definitionally. So we know we've already gone through B1 and B2, but it's useful to kind of see how we build that up. So remember, you build the determinant. So for B1, you set up A1, A3, and then A0, A2 over the component that's directly above it, which would just be A1. And then for B2, you essentially eliminate here, build it up here. So actually for B2, we can actually calculate that fairly straightforward because it'll be, I'm going to set up A1 and 0 and A0 and A4, all divided again by A1. So this cancels. So now it's just A1, A4 over A1. So B2 is going to be equal to A4. And we can kind of set up similar tables for C1. So for C1, my determinant will be something like, again, grab this row here, B1, B2, grab the row above it here, A1, A3, all over B1. And so we can kind of match that there. B1, A3 minus A1, B2 over B1. Fantastic. And we're told that D1 should be equal to A4. Let's prove that. So what we can do, so if I look at D1, and that's just going to be equal to, again, what do? We grab this. So it's going to be what? C1, 0, B1, B2, determinant over C1. This cancels, so I'm going to get C1, B2 over C1. B2 we know is equal to A4. Voila. Fantastic. So let's actually do this with a worked example. You can kind of run through and determine these calculations. What I've done is built a handy dandy function. That's an old phrase that I wonder if any of you know that anymore. I built our Routh table and our Routh table or stable question. So let's build it for this characteristic polynomial. So we have our coefficients 1, 3, 3, 2, 1. We build the Routh table. Looks pretty accurate. Is this a stable system? And again, we could just actually ask the question directly, but it's always nice to see the Routh table. It is indeed stable. So there's no sign change. So there is no right-hand poles, therefore our system is stable. How else can we confirm that? Well, why don't we take that function? So I'm going to take that function here. I'm going to look for the poles. The fourth order system, so I should expect 4 poles. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fantastic. And now I'm going to use my function that I built previously and see where those poles lie. And what do we know? 2 imaginary poles. Everything's on the left-hand side, not non-repeated, or we don't have repeated poles that are on the imaginary axis only. Voila. Double confirmation. Isn't it great when things come together? Fantastic. So this is great. And this is our first tool to basically do control design. So we're going to actually look at a controller now. So we'll see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.